Every guitar teacher tells us to learn the scales and the CAGED system, but they don't actually tell us why or how to turn these stale exercises into music. So today I'll show you how I actually practice these in a musical way that help me to freely navigate and improvise all over the fretboard. Let's go. So first we're told to learn the 5 shapes of the CAGED system. I mean, it's cool to know how these shapes connect together to unlock the fretboard, but what am I supposed to do? I go through C, all the shapes, then C sharp, then D sharp. That's not music, that's homeworks. So if you want to actually make music with a CAGED system, follow these steps. First, you learn the C shape, easy enough. Then you play one song that you already know or like, and you play it only using C shapes. Here's what the C minor looks like. I only play these 3 notes usually because the whole shape isn't really practical to play. Here it is in E minor. I mean, you can't play that as a chord. Moving on, all you need to do is find the root of the chord on the 5th fret. Here they are, by the way, feel free to screenshot that. Then you can play a chord from there. You don't need to start memorizing these roots. After you've practiced this a few times with a few different songs, you're gonna know your roots by heart. For example, this is an A minor, C, G, an E minor chord progression, all played in C-shaped chords. Second step, using this very same chord progression, you start practicing lead around the shape. And when I say around the shape, I do mean around the notes of the shape. You don't know your scales? No problem. Use this chart. You can safely play these notes around the C shape. They won't all be in the scale you're playing, but it doesn't matter. They can still work. I mean, some of the best melodies we know use tones that are not in the scale, all right? So feel free to explore and try stuff. It doesn't matter if you miss a note, right? So why do we do this so early, right? I thought I was supposed to learn all the notes on the fretboard before even attempting to play a lead, right? No, that's a mistake. Music is not about reading dots on a sheet of music. It's about playing the music that's in your head. And we get there by learning the rules, theory, and breaking them. And so many guys tell me, dude, I'm trying to improvise with the CAGED system, the scales, and the triads, but something's not right. And when I hear them play, I mean, it sounds like CAGED, or it sounds like scales or triads. Only because they're not thinking about going outside of that system. They're not allowing themselves to explore. So when you're exploring around this C shape and you're trying to play lead around the notes, and if you don't like what you're hearing, you can always go back to that chord tone, to that C shape, and everything's gonna be fine again. It's so important to learn how notes feel when stacked up against a chord. So really practice this over a backing track. I used to spend time looking for backing tracks that I like over on YouTube. Now I just type chord player online and I write my chord progression, and it takes 10 seconds. But does that mean that you can't ever play without a backing track? No. Which leads us to the 3rd step. An exercise I love to do is playing by myself, but now my lead needs to emphasize the chord progression so the listener can understand what chord we're playing. So here's something to get you started. Try to play at least 2 notes in order of the chord that you're playing without stepping around the chord shape. Now, step 4, you learn another shape, the A shape. You understand how it connects to the C shape with that same root. You repeat step 1, you play a song only using A shape. Then, when it comes to lead, you can start blending the C and the A shape all together. And that opens up a lot of options for you. Now you repeat this process with a G, E, and D shape. And when you're done with this, even if you don't even know a single scale, you can play leads around the C shape all the way to the D shape. I mean, that's a lot of neck covered. Pro tip, if you want to push this even a bit further, when you're jamming leads, practice singing the note as you're playing it. At first, it might be hard, So what you can do is hit a note, sing a very short melody that's around that note, and then play it. Over time, shouldn't take very long at all. You're going to be able to do both at the same time, and then you're really going to be able to play the music in your head. But the CAGED is only a 3-note system, right? I got root, third, and fifth. So when you're done with this, you're ready to step up to the pentatonics. Now this is the logical step because it's a 5-note system. You already know 3 of them. So you learn position 1 of the minor pentatonic, but the cool thing is you can also use it for the major pentatonic. If you put your index finger on the root, it's minor. You see how it outlines the E minor chord shape? But if you put your pinky on the root, suddenly it's a major scale. You see how it outlines the G shape? Now I do not recommend that you run scales for hours until your kids get old and you miss their graduation party. That is extremely silly and boring. You put a 1-minute timer on your phone and you start running the scale up and down and you count how many full rotation you can do. And hopefully you're going to be practicing tomorrow, right? And you do the exact same thing, you try to do 1 more maybe. That's it. Next step, you get a 1-chord backing track and you start to run that scale slowly across that 1 chord, all right? And you do this and you start to focus on how each note sounds against that chord. And you'll find that some of them feel right at home, but some others feel like they're suspended. They do sound cool, but it feels like they want to be taken somewhere else. They want to resolve on one of the chord tones. Some people would say this is way too soon to do this. Focus on ear training and creativity before you know the whole neck. I mean, it's too soon. Really? Why is that? Well, because that's how I learned, and I had a really hard time learning this way, and I want you to have a hard time too. I don't want you to get better than me any faster. Moving on. Next, you start messing around the notes outside of this chord shape. To get you started, a pretty safe place is half a step under a scale tone. Make it groovy and interesting, and remember, scales, they're not hard rules, they're guidelines. You know, try a few bends also. You can bend outside in or inside out. And when bending, you don't have to only bend from a scale tone to another, right? Now to step it up further, you practice that same position, but with a 2, 3, or 4 chord backing track. And since you already know the CAGED system, try to find the CAGED chords within that first pentatonic box. Now when doing this, you should realize something. For example, that 4 chord, in this instance the D minor chord, it has a note that's not in my pentatonic scale. Same with the 5 and the 7 chord. There's a note that's also not in my pentatonic. Now whenever you're playing over these chords, think about playing these notes because these are chord tones that you can use to resolve your licks, and you would not have access to this if you only focused on the pentatonic shape. Do you see how all of this builds off of each other? I mean, I got 5 chord shape and 1 pentatonic shape, and we're unlocking a lot of options here. Imagine if you keep stacking up stuff like this. Next step, you jam without a backing track. So like before, you're gonna state the chord tones using the CAGED system, but now you also have access to that pentatonic, and nothing sounds more guitar than a good old pentatonic licks. Then you learn position 2 of the pentatonic. You repeat steps 1, 2, 3, 4. But when it comes to playing lead, now you start blending these 2 shapes together. It's gonna feel like a lot at the beginning, so just learn 2 strings at a time. When you're comfortable with this, add a 3rd one. It's gonna be so much easier if you use baby steps like that. Then you repeat the whole process for shape 3, 4, 5. And listen, backing tracks are really key here, because if you're just playing by yourself and you're not stacking notes over a chord, you're just noodling. Now, I gave up trying to find good backing tracks a long time ago. It's way too time consuming. If you don't know what chord progression to use, I have a free template of cool progression I like to use for each of the 7 modes. I also added the links to the free chord players web apps that I like to use. Guys, thank you so much for watching the whole thing. Cheers.